automatically stopped it. And I could have just made a second part. Okay, so spend a few minutes trying to answer this question. Okay, it shows a collection of dogs, mice, and cats. Write 2 sentences that describe a ratio of types of animals in this collection. There are lots of possible answers, okay, but you are writing a sentence, 2 sentences, not a ratio. You're doing it on your own, and then we will discuss it. So spend a few minutes, try and answer that, and then we will discuss it. Okay, who can give me one sentence that I could use? Or first, before I do any sentences, what should I do, Brady?
Find out what the actual ratio of the collection is.
Okay, yeah, just count up the collection, see what I have. So I have 6 dogs, 2 mice, and 4 cats. So first you have to figure out what are you working with. Okay, Brady, give me one sentence you came up with.
For every 6 dogs, there are 2 mice and 3 cats.
Okay, so for every 6 dogs, there are 2 mice and 4 cats. Does that work?
Yes.
Who can give that same sentence better? Mallory?
For every 3 dogs, there is 1 mice and 2 cats.
Yeah, 1 mouse and 2 cats. What did she do to her numbers, Brady?
She just switched them.
She didn't switch them around.
She
She simplified. Yeah, she reduced 6, 2, and 4. She said, hey, those can all be divided by 2. So for every 3 dogs, there is 1 mouse and 2 cats. Both of those are fine. Peyton?
I put the ratio of dogs and mice to cats are 2 to 4.
Okay, so the ratio of, I'm just going to get lazy now, dogs to cats. How'd you say it? Dogs to cats to mice?
Dogs, mice, cats.
Dogs to mice to cats is,
6.
did you say 6 to 2 to 4?
Yeah.
Okay, who can give that sentence just a little bit better? Bianca?
3 to 1 to 2.
Yeah, you could have said the ratio of dogs to mice to cats is 3 to 1 to 2. Who has another sentence? Dayton, what'd you put?
I put there are 3 dogs to every 1 mice and 1 mice for every 2 cats.
Okay, so that was kind of like this one, right?
Yeah, I did one.
Okay, could I have said for every 3 dogs there are 2 cats? Yeah, because the sentence didn't say it had to include all 3 animals. Okay, so I could have said for every 3 dogs there are 2 cats. For every 1 mouse there are blank dogs. For every 1 mouse there are blank dogs. Bryce?
3 dogs.
Yes, 3 dogs. Good job. The ratio of mice to cats is what to what, Owen? The ratio of mice to cats is 2 to 4 or 1 to 2. Okay, so for this one collection of animals, I could probably give 20 different sentences if I had to. Okay, a lot of times they'll ask you for 2. Questions on that one? Okay, look over at the next page. This one is over lesson 2, unit 2, lesson 2. There are 3 cats in a room and no other creatures. Each cat has 2 ears, 4 paws, and 1 tail. Draw a diagram that shows an association between the number of ears, paws, and tails in the room. So you're just drawing a diagram that's showing the groupings. So draw a diagram that includes ears, paws, and tails. And remember, when you're drawing the diagram, try and group them. How could you group them? Okay, I'm going to give you a few minutes. Try and do all the questions that go with it also. So you'll do number 1, and then try number 2, A, B, and C. Okay, so for this one, First, I would figure out how many ears there are. How many ears are there altogether?
6.
6. There's 6 ears. How many paws? 12. How many tails? 3. Okay, looking at those 3 numbers, is there something that I could divide them all by?
Yes.
What? 3. I could reduce them all by 3. So if I reduce them all by 3, I just want to show you something. I would get 2, 4, 1. Where did we see those numbers?
Up top.
Up top, okay? So really, the groups here, there will be 3 groups, but it's because they gave me 3 cats. But with any information, if you're trying to decide, can I group these or can I not, look at the numbers you're working with. If there is a number that you could divide them all by and get a whole number, then that's how many groups you would have. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to write ears. You should have a label on your diagram. Ears, paws, and tails. Colton, how many ears do we have?
6.
What shape did you use?
Circle.
Circle. Did we have to use circles?
No.
Nope. How many am I going to put in a group?
2.
2. So I would have put 2, spaced it out a little bit, 2, spaced it out a little bit, put 2 more. Noelle, how many paws are going to be in each group?
4.
4. What shape did you use?
I use triangles.
Okay. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. What am I missing? Tails. Let's use squares. 1 tail, 1 tail, 1 tail. So again, each group is really representing 1 cat. Because you had 1 cat, but then you multiplied it by 3. So it would triple all of your ears, paws, and tails. Next, complete each statement. The ratio of blank to blank to blank is blank to blank to blank. Addie, what did you write in those blanks?
I did paws, tails to ears.
Okay, paws to tails to ears, and then what was your numbers?
4, 1, 2.
4, 1, 2 works.
6.
Or she could have done, nope, if she did paws to tails to ears, 12 to 3 to 6 would have also been fine. Who did something else? Noelle?
I did what they said in order. I did ears to paws to tails.
Okay, so you did ears to paws to tails, and then what was your number?
The number is 2, 4, 1.
So 2 to 4 to 1 is the best answer. What else could you have said? You could have gave the unsimplified 6 to 12 to 3. Okay, right now, since we're working with equivalent ratios, they're just wanting ratios that are equivalent. So at this point, they're all okay. It'll get to a point where it'll say, give the ratio in its simplest form. And that's when you have to give it as a reduced form.
But if you give it a reduced one every time, it's okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And that's probably the best answer. Okay, B says there are blank paws for every tail. I'm going to rewrite what did they give us? Ears, paws, tails. 6 to 12 to 4. This one I'm focusing on paws and tails. They have to give me one of them. They tell me there are blank paws for every tail. So what is my number for tails?
3.
If it says for every tail, yeah, for every tail means I'm just working with 1 tail. So now I have to figure out how do I get from 4 to 1.
Wait, there are 3 tails.
Oh. Well,
I was like,
sorry. How do I get from 3 to 1? Divide by 3. So how do I find how many paws there are? Brady?
You divide 12 divided by 3.
Yeah, I can take 12 divided by 3 and get 4.
You like to write 2 and 4.
So there are 4 paws for every tail. There are blank paws for every ear. So on this one, I'm just focusing on 6, which is my ears, and my paws, which was 12. And this says every ear, which means I need to get my ears to 1. Noelle, how do I get from 6 to 1? Divide by 6. What's 12 divided by 6? 2, because that was divide by 6. This one's divide by 6. As long as I do the same thing to both sides, it's equivalent. So there are 2 paws for every ear. Questions on that one? Okay, flip it over to the next side. Try lesson 3. This one you should have a sentence as your answer. You should have some work, but also have a sentence. If you finish that one, look at problem number, lesson 4 problem under it. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to try those 2. So you're doing the lesson 3 problem and the lesson 4 problems. So the whole left side of the back. Okay. So usually when Alina makes bird food, she mixes 9 cups of seeds with 6 tablespoons of maple syrup. However, today she is short on ingredients. Think of a recipe that would yield a smaller batch of bird food but still taste the same. Explain or show your reasoning. What does yield a smaller batch mean? Bryce?
Like to take away some of the current.
Yeah, it just means it'll make a smaller batch. Okay, it'll make a smaller batch. Bryce, what did you do? How did you start?
I took 9 divided by 3.
Okay, so first you set up your ratio probably, right?
Yes.
So what was your original ratio?
Original ratio was 9 to 6.
Okay, I'm going to put 9CS. What do you think that stands for?
9 cups.
9 cups of seed to 6 tablespoons of
Maple syrup.
syrup. I'll put SYR. Okay, Bryce, go ahead. What'd you say?
I don't know how I got this. So what I should have done was taken 9 divided by 3, and you would have gotten 3, and then the 6 divided by the 3, and you would have gotten 2.
Okay, so then my sentence would have been, she could use 3 cups of seed and 2 tablespoons of syrup. Who can give me another answer? Did anybody get a different answer?
I explained it.
Okay, yeah, so your explanation would be because if she divides them both in thirds, or if she divides both sets of ingredients by 3, it would still taste the same. You should have, yes, had an explanation. What else could I have done? Why did Bryce divide by 3? Noelle?
You can divide both by 3 and still have
A whole number answer, right?
You could
Could I have
times it by 1/3.
why? Okay, or multiply it by 1/3 would give us the same answer. Could I do this?
Yeah. No.
What is 9 divided by 2?
4.5.
Or 4.5, right? 4.5 over what's 6 divided by 2? 3. Sometimes those make sense. Sometimes they do not. Let's put it in the context of this problem. What is my label for 4.5?
Cups of seed.
Cups of bird seed. If I said you need 4.5 cups of bird seed, could you do that?
Yeah.
Yes. Could you get me 3 tablespoons of syrup? Would that taste the same? Yes, because it is an equivalent ratio. It's not a whole number ratio, but it's still equivalent. Chase?
Or you can group them.
What'd you say?
You can group them.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you could group them. So that would make how much of the batch? Half of it. What would that top one make?
A third
A third of it, okay? So the bottom one would make half a batch. The top one would make 1/3 of the original batch, okay? Both of them would reduce the ingredients. Could I have divided them both by 4? Or 5 or 6? Yeah, it would just make the numbers not so pretty. Okay, going on to lesson 4. Orange water. Says write a ratio for 2 batches of this recipe. Before I can find 2 batches, I have to pull the ratio for 1 batch. What was 1 batch? 3 over 1. I'm just going to write it as a fraction. So what would 2 batches be?
Times 2, so
6 over 2. Who can give me another one? Bryce?
Did you guys already say 6 2?
Yep. So this one's the original. We did times 2 to get 6 over 2. Who can give me another one? Mallory, give me another one. Equivalent to 3 over 1. Oh, sorry, I didn't read the question. I'm on the next question. So write a ratio for 2 batches is, I'm on the next page. Sorry, I didn't read the question. Next one, write a ratio for 4 batches. I was thinking it asked for equivalent ratios, but that's the next page. Chase? 12 to 4. Okay. Why on these ones is my ratio enough? Chase?
It only says write a ratio.
Yeah, it says write a ratio. Okay? If you're ever unsure, if you need labels, it's never going to be marked wrong if you add labels and don't need them. You might get marked off if you need labels and don't have them. Okay? So if you're ever unsure, it's always correct if you have them. So number 3, explain why we can say that any 2 of these 3 ratios are equivalent. Chase, what did you put?
I said you can say that they're equivalent because 6 to 2 and 12 to 4 can be divided into 3 to 1.
Okay, which means they all reduce down to the same ratio. Okay, he said it in a lot more words, but if any 2 ratios reduce down or in simplest form are the same, then they are equivalent. So I'm going to try to explain why we can say that these, so they are equivalent because, and I'm going to be lazy, they are all 3 to 1 in simplest form. So a lot of times when you guys are trying to create equivalent ratios, you're multiplying them up. But anytime you have 2 ratios, if you can't multiply them to get them to be the same, if you can't figure that out, try and reduce them all the way down. If you reduce them all the way down and they're the same, that means that they are equivalent. Okay, they would be the same in simplest form. Okay, go over and do the last page on the right. A couple more questions. This is the one where we're writing equivalent ratios.
Yeah.
Okay, take a minute and do this. Shouldn't take you long. Just do one. We're going to do a bunch. If you want to do 2 or 3, you can. Lexi, give me one ratio that's equivalent. 8 to 12. So she built it up. She did times 2 times 2. Who went the other way? Colton, what did you do?
Divided by half.
Did you divide by half or divide by 2?
2.
You divided by 2, so you divided the whole number in half.
There's times by half then.
So that would be 2, you're right, 2/3. But I'm going to, so he said divide by half, and I think he meant divide in half. Okay? And that's different because think about, the best way I can explain it is if you had 4 cookies, you guys can all visualize that, right? And you divide them in half. How many cookies do you now have? 8. But if you take 4 and divide it into, if you take half of 4, you get 2. So I knew what he meant, but that's why I corrected him. Who gave me another one? Owen?
12 over 18.
12 over 18 because you did times 3 times 3. Could I do 40 over 60?
Yes.
Could I do 400 over 600?
Yes.
Could I do 200 over 300?
Yes.
How many different ratios could I potentially ask you for?
You'd have to put a line over it. You could go on forever.
Yeah, I could ask you for 800 different ratios and you would probably, it would take you a while, but you should be able to give me 800 different ratios. You could do times 2 times 2, times 3 times 3, times 4 times 4, times 5 times 6. I would just start adding zeros because that's the easiest. Because 20 over 30 is equivalent. 200 over 300, 2,000 over 3,000, 20,000 over 30,000, so on. Those are still equivalent ratios. Number 2, how do you know that your new ratio is equivalent to 4 to 6? Explain or show your reasoning. Bianca?
So I did 2/3, and I know this because 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 6 divided by 2 is 3.
Okay, so in simplest form, they are the same. Is kind of what you said in more words, okay? Equivalent ratios, either you can build them up to be the same or break them all the way down to simplest form to be the same. Okay, in my opinion, I think you'll do pretty well on this quiz tomorrow. It's only, I think, 8 questions. Some of them are multi-part questions. Last year, most of the mistakes were goofy ones, like if it said apples to oranges, they gave me oranges to apples. Okay, so nothing major. If you feel like you need more practice, and I've said this before, but it's been a while, on Google Classroom, oh, come on, there's my classes. On Google Classroom, 6th grade math, not sure why this is still here. No, thank you, got it. Under classwork, on your resources, IXL does have ratios. You might have to look for, or if you just search ratios, I don't think I have them starred right now, but in Khan Academy, that is directly aligned to our textbook. And remember, this one takes us straight to our textbook curriculum. It won't take you to your assignments. You don't even have to sign in. And again, this is for anything, not just this unit. It's just I haven't showed you in a while. Maybe if it loads. Peyton, do you have a question? So once it loads, it'll be our whole book by unit, broken up by unit. What unit are we in? Unit 2. So there's Unit 1. We're going to go down to Unit 2. Our quiz tomorrow is over lessons 1 through 5. If you just click on one, like this is just an overview, kind of a table of contents. If I click on one of them, it takes me to a different page. I'll still see all of them, just in a different format. So here it says lesson 1 is over introducing ratios. There's videos if you think you need to watch a video, but then there's practices. Most of these practices are the ones that I assign as your homework assignments, but you could always redo them for extra practice. Not every lesson has an assignment, okay? Lesson 2 has some practice. Lesson 3 does not have any practice, but it's because it was very similar to lesson 4,
But it has a
which has
video.
it has a video. Yep. Lesson 4 has practice, and lesson 5 has practice. And then what do you notice is under lesson 5? The quiz that you did yesterday. Okay, but that is always good practice. And on Khan Academy, it's not always the same question. So even if you did 4 questions on lesson 5 yesterday, you might not get the same 4 questions if you practiced it today. Okay, so I'm just showing you different ways, because what's the best way to study for a math test?
Do the problem.
To do math. Okay, so your quiz is tomorrow. That's all we're doing. Again, it's not super long. And then we will start with 2.6 on Monday. Okay.